Right. I think we can get started. First of all, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special webinar organized in collaboration between the Crypto Valley Association and Storm Partners. Storm Partners is a professional service firm dedicated to the blockchain industry, and as a proud and active member of the CVA, we're thrilled to co-host this event. So my name is Axel Sabbag, and I'm the Innovation Manager at Storm Partners. I lead Lightning Box, a sandbox aimed at fostering blockchain corporate innovation for organizations in finance, luxury, and impact. I'll be sharing more about Lightning Box later in this session. And before we begin, I'd like to address a quick change in today's lineup. Sanya Khan from Circle, who was originally scheduled to join us, had to step back due to unforeseen circumstances. However, we are lucky and delighted to welcome Dennis Scheller as her replacement. Dennis is the Business Development Director for Circle at Europe, and we're grateful to have his insights with us today. So I'll provide a quick introduction on both our speakers. First of all, thank you so much for being here with us. I'm very excited about the conversation, and I'm sure that we're going to get a lot of very valuable insights from your experience in the industry. So Dennis represents Circle. Circle is a global leader in financial technology and blockchain solutions. Circle is best known for USDC, a stablecoin that has become critical infrastructure for blockchain-powered finance. Dennis brings extensive experience in driving blockchain adoption across Europe and is well equipped to discuss the opportunities and challenges the industry faces today. Also joining us today is Christophe Utelli, Deputy CEO at Cite Gestion. Cite Gestion is a private bank offering personalized wealth management solutions for Swiss and international clients. They are also a leader in digital asset management, combining its strong foundation in traditional finance with cutting-edge blockchain technology to deliver innovative client solutions. Christophe has been instrumental in shaping the company's blockchain strategy, and we're very excited to hear his perspectives. So today, we'll explore how blockchain is transforming the financial industry, focusing on innovation, regulation, and opportunities for collaboration between traditional institutions and blockchain companies. We'll also have a Q&A section at the end, so if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A at the bottom, and we'll try and answer as many as possible. So let's dive in. First off, thank you again both for being here. I'm excited to ask all these questions, very curious about what your answers are, and I'm not going to take much more time, and we can get started with the first question, which is for both of you, more of a general macro question, which is how do you see blockchain currently transforming the financial industry? And what do you believe is its most significant impact over the next 5 years? So maybe Christophe, you can start with this one.
Hello, everybody. To me, being a very traditional private banking institution, what is today puzzling is the way we handle assets in many ways, but especially speaking about custody and transfers and the modern world in which we are living. And frankly, I would say we have a distance of 20, 30 years. I always repeat myself, but if I want to transfer a hedge fund in one of my clients' account to a bank 1 kilometer away, Swiss bank, same kind of technology, same activity, it can take me between 2 weeks and 4 months. And it's not an individual hedge fund. It is a well-traded hedge fund everywhere in the world. And as I can explain this via many argumentations, but the client experience is just nowhere. And especially when you begin to deal with the digital assets, The average age of clients of private banks is quite old, but you are all young, but you will also move through time. And if I do not move with my technology, you will just not understand. This is not credible. So I think the tokenization of such asset is absolutely key. It is impossible today to take more than a day or 2 days till we have assets being transferred. Cash is relatively better, but it can be enhanced. It's not as worse as we are experiencing with traditional assets. So there, I think tokenization is really a fantastic service that we could bring to clients.
Yeah, amazing. And what about you, Dennis?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. And Axel, thanks for having me today. I would just second what Christophe was just outlining, right? If you look at the financial industry in general, what are we looking at? We're looking at a technology that's built on payment rails, right? To move assets from A to B. And then we have a regulatory, legal, and compliance environment as well. The current industry has been built on rails that have been there for quite some time, right? If you look at SWIFT, especially for US dollar transactions, and SEPA in Europe for euro, those are not bad looking at themselves, but in the end, they are just regional, fragmented, and sometimes slow. That then leads to a, let's say, customer experience transferring a hedge fund, and they can take up for 4 weeks, right? That's definitely something where the industry, the financial industry, has also acknowledged that the blockchain technology is actually let's say, a good way to move. I used to say in my old days, move money around, but I would say now move value around. And that can be money, digital money, like a digital dollar, digital euro, but also tokenized assets. So I fully agree to what Christophe is saying here. And in the end, I believe that for example, a stablecoin, cash leg on chain, will power such tokenized economy in the future going forward. What we see from Circle is that there are different use cases of the financial industry that are moving on chain. If you ask us, we believe that actually in a few years, ideally there will be a move to an on-chain economy, right? On-chain infrastructure that will power money movements and asset movements. From our experience, what we see is there were, let's say, 2 waves of mass adoption, right? So the first one is digital trading, digital asset trading, mostly driven by the retail space. And then what we see is that, let's say, the traditional financial industry, when they dip the toes into the water of digital assets, what they do is digital asset trading and then custody service for their clients to offer this. And what we also see is that there is a pretty, let's say, growing space in the market, which is around payments. I would say there is the remittance payments that has been driven again by the retail side. The second wave of mass adoption by institutional players now shows a larger uptake for, let's say, B2B payments that could also then include, let's say, banks doing cross-border payments or banks doing treasury management flows on chain. And then I think last but not least, this is also what Christophe was referring to, is in the end let's say, the global capital markets that move into the tokenization space. When we think about what we do see today is, let's say, tokenized assets that are mirrored on chain. But I think the true opportunity will actually unfold when you have tokenized assets, let's say bonds, shares, stocks, hedge fund, whatever asset you want to tokenize, fully issued on chain, and then this will also enable the cost saving. So I think looking at this as a nascent but emerging growing market over the next 5 years is definitely something where I would focus on.
Yeah, thank you so much for the answers. I think you mentioned briefly regulation, and I think that's an important part of innovation, especially in the financial sector. Christophe, how has Cite Gestion navigated the regulatory landscape when adopting blockchain technology?
And we have the chance to have an open-minded regulator, and I cross fingers that it can stay that way in the future. You never know. But I think FINMA and the Parliament did quite an impressive job over the last years. We didn't run into those new territories. As we know, the Swiss, they are more prudent. But we walked there, and we had very constructive discussion and exchange with our regulators. We learned, they learned, and I hope it will continue that way. My concern today is probably education, not at the regulator, but probably at the compliance and risk officers in traditional banks. It seems that even today, although the number is decreasing, but for some of them, blockchain is like, this is impossible, no? This is completely the opposite of what you can do. And that reflex is showing to me that from an educational perspective, we still have to convince those people that we are not talking about money laundering, we are talking about technology, which is fantastically useful, not only for the transfer of assets or transfer of value, as mentioned by Dennis, but also for security reasons. We are faced with external fraud. People are getting more and more agile and intelligent by taking over the identity of our clients. And of course, if I know Dennis since 25 years, I will recognize his avatar is not speaking and reacting the same way. But it's not always like this in banks, no? Not in our banks, but in other banks. You replace a banker by another banker. He doesn't know you. He doesn't know. So also from a security perspective, I am sure blockchain can create here a fantastic environment to be freer and to deliver a better value to clients. There I see really the need for an education. The regulators have been, as for now, open-minded, and the communication was really good.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've been quite lucky with the FINMA so far. Hopefully, as you say, it continues in that direction. But for Dennis, Circle is a global company. How do you how does Circle's global presence shape your strategy for balancing innovation with compliance across like many different regulatory environments? It's a bit more complicated than yeah, just one country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the challenge really comes from the fact that the blockchain technology is an open infrastructure, right? It's an open network that allows people to participate at their liking. And from a Circle perspective, we've always taken a regulatory first approach from our go-to-market strategy. And when you think about this, that it's great, right? It signals trust to the counterparties you are actually engaging in doing business and building partnerships, but it also creates let's say, a challenge because you need to adopt to different regulatory regimes. And I think if you look at, let's just say, look at Europe, right? I think we're fortunate that we have around Switzerland with its own prudent DLT regime since 2019, I believe. We now have MiCA regulation in place. And I think that builds a nice block. And from my experience here in working with Swiss partners, what I see is everybody's trying to find a way to actually engage also in the EEA area, finding a way on how you can set your business up to be compliant, to reach out to this block. But then think about the US, right? It doesn't have a regulatory framework yet. I think a lot of people in the industry are now looking to the States to at least pass a stablecoin regulation sometimes nearby. And then I think you would have a big push in the market having a US clear regulatory framework going forward. But in general, I think this is still somewhat fragmented, and this will come around in the next years, trying to set up regulatory compliant businesses, not only for Circle, but I think for the entire industry across the different hubs, crypto hubs in the region, right? I think you see in APAC regulation coming out of Singapore, which is leading. You see in the Middle East, there are regulatory advancements that we can witness. So I think in Europe, it's actually great to see that we are at first and innovative here in this regard. It's great.
Yeah, I think a fantastic perspective on regulation, which is a tough one. But as you said, hopefully we get more clarity from the US and continued clarity here in Switzerland and the rest of the world. Now, I know you both have mentioned some really interesting use cases, but is there any particular use case that is quite underrated or hasn't received enough attention yet that you think is something that will significantly grow in the coming years?
Maybe first.
So I just had a bad connection. Sorry, Axel. Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Yeah, sorry. Is there, I know you've mentioned a lot of different innovation and use cases in blockchain, but is there any particular one that you feel is quite underrated at the moment and doesn't have a lot of attention, but that you really believe will grow a lot in the coming years?
Yeah, so I would go back to what I said to your first question, right? I truly believe that the tokenization of financial instruments will have a huge impact in driving efficiency, managing counterparty risk, and think about the ability not only to trade, but also really to issue, to record, to transfer, and to store digital financial instruments on the blockchain. I think this will be a game changer for the industry and will not only drive down costs, but also will make it a more open market because suddenly you can invest into tokenized assets probably you didn't have access to in the earlier days. I think what we see also here is that there's a more specialization happening in the industry, right? You have a separation of duties. If you think about the old days of crypto trading, you have a centralized exchange that does the trading, the settlement, the custody part. And now what we see is that there are specialized players who will then build trust and bring, let's say, credibility to the industry, and that will also drive adoption going forward. And if you then think about what just has happened, I think yesterday in Germany, right? There was the first DLT TSS license awarded to a company 21X, right? That really means that nowadays you can issue, for example, the hedge fund that Christophe was talking about on-chain Polygon with a very
I think we lost Dennis here. I'm sure he'll come back in a couple of seconds. Yeah, sorry, we lost you a bit.
I'm sorry for that. Where did you guys lose me?
At 21X, just a bit after that.
Okay, yeah, let me just finish this thought quickly and then I hand over to Christophe. Apologies for that. Yeah, I was just saying, so 21X, I think it's just an example, right? I think there will be many more going forward, but what it allows is actually to issue a hedge fund on chain, then distribute it via the primary market, enable secondary market trading. And in the end, what you can do is you can bring down the settlement time, also the counterparty risk, instead of T+3 to a T+0 or even atomic settlement, right? You will streamline the entire value chain of, let's say, the traditional markets where you have no central securities depository anymore. And I think these will be trends that will grow over time. It is still very early days, but I believe the vision that's behind this will be amazing to watch. And I'm looking forward to that.
We didn't talk with Dennis, but to me, the biggest advantage that will have an impact on my industry is, as he said, atomic settlement. the fact that bankers today they finish their day, in essence, from an investment perspective, at 5 or at 6 in the evening, and from Friday evening till Monday morning, it's weekend. I mean, that's if you think a little bit about the power that will be generated and the impact on the financial industry, about being able to do 24/7 anytime. I don't know if there are only positive things. Huh? Can be also very negatives, but for the client, it's just wonderful, just fantastic. No, you forget to do a transfer. Saturday you're with your friend. You say, "Ah, yeah, okay, let's. I do that now," and it's very easy. So I think atomic settlement is something that will shape a lot the industry. Of course, there are as well many people gaining money, being intermediaries. Will slow down a little bit the process, but it's just a lost battle. Just the question is how long the battle will last. But for the client, it will not only be better, it will be cheaper. So I'm very happy to be a client of a good blockchain financial institutions in 10 to 20 years and see that evolution as well. Yes.
Amazing. Thank you for your great answers. I want to talk about something, I guess, very important in this development phase, which is partnerships. Cite Gestion is a traditional bank, and there needs to be some partnerships, as I know you've done a partnership with Taurus. How can traditional financial institutions and blockchain companies collaborate more effectively to drive innovation and adoption? Because I know on the traditional side, it's hard for traditional banks to start innovating with partners in the blockchain sector. Is there anything that both sides can do to foster more innovation in the sector?
Again, I think number one, Cite Gestion is a small bank, so we will never be a trendsetter in infrastructure. So I would need to invite a Goldman Sachs or Citibank colleague or whatever. But many times, great RDs are being shared with people at the front, head of commercial entity or commercial department, and as soon as the idea is on paper, then it goes in the committees, and as I said, then you have a risk or compliance person, and some of them are great, fantastic, and some of them still need to get a bit expertise, and then they say, no, it's too complicated. We have this, we have that. So either those people need more education, or we need to start a project with them. And they have great power in the organization. If we can just outline the fantastic change that it will generate for them as well with traceability, that's super. I mean, again, imagine compliance, traditional compliance in financial industry, private banking. Client comes, he says, I have 3 million, I did this out of my company in any countries, and I will send you the balance sheet. You get a PDF, okay, looks great. Wow. You look a little bit in internet, yeah, that's all right. And then you open the account and you receive the money. Nothing to do with what you can achieve with blockchain. So for those people, it's a fantastic achievement that blockchain could bring from a traceability of funds. So I think, yes, those people would need to be taken care of very early in the process, and not only outlining a fantastic vision with the commercial department. That is my take on that.
And maybe Dennis, I know Circle has had some experience quite a lot in that. Would love to see your point of view.
Yeah, so what we learn is that there are actually, in the meantime, if you look at, for example, large banks in Europe, I think all of them in the meantime have built up large departments that are actually investigating different usability, let me call it distributed ledger technologies, and how they can employ it within their banks, right? So I think that's one thing. What that also, or what MiCA in the end did for us, a regulation, is that it opens up the ability to actually discuss with such large financial institutions, right? I think, Christophe's entity, the small ones, even though you say you are not a trendsetter, I do believe that you guys can move very fast and very agile. You can offer probably services much faster and in a compliant way than these large entities. But what we see is that they usually start with a proof of concept, right? And then coming out of the innovation department. And in the end, it's always a question on, how can we manage the risk? What's the business case behind it? And then if you're successful in these phases, then this will move into the implementation phase. And then you actually go through all the different committees that Christophe was mentioning. And this is then where the fun starts. But I am very positive that we will see over the next, let's say, 2 to 3 years, also big steps by traditional players in the space. I think Stripe, not traditionally in the banking, but in the payment space, just made the huge acquisition of Bridge, which is a stablecoin orchestration layer. So I believe that there will be a lot of innovation, a lot of adoption coming. And yeah, I'm looking positively in the future for the industry.
Amazing. Yeah, we all are. Well, that was my last question. Some questions from the audience. So I'm going to pick two to keep consideration on time. The first one is from Rodrigo Pinto. And the question is, are CBDCs a threat to stablecoins, or could they coexist and complement each other in the financial ecosystem?
So let me take this one, Axel, if you don't mind. I believe that CBDCs are definitely something that will coexist with, let's say, privately issued stablecoins. I do believe that there are, let's say, different considerations for CBDCs, right? You have a wholesale CBDC, which is more in the background, settlement, larger payments between banks. I think Switzerland has been, again, at the forefront here with Project Helvetia. And then you have the retail CBDCs. I think those are the ones that could compete with, let's say, stablecoins. But in the end, I believe that the way that CBDCs can and will be implemented is very much a deciding factor about adoption. I think that, privately issued stablecoins like the ones that Circle issues, they are very easy accessible and functional. There's large liquidity, right? You can use them nowadays, so the utility is there. Let's see how this is being adopted on the CBDC side. But in general, I believe they will coexist. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Christophe. Do you have anything to add on this one?
Just maybe one view. We're always thinking in Switzerland, US, EU. I think the use case or that question is probably a different answer if you're in a more emerging market. But that's of course not the first use case. So I think the coexistence is of course the only driver, because when it comes to exchangeability so easily, you basically don't care if you hold one currency, another currency. Well, when everything is tokenized, that's so easy. You can coexist without any issue with 2 or 3. That's not the problem.
Amazing. And I'll just ask a last question from DS. It's about MiCA. And do you think that it will actually stay as it is, or will the EU make some step backs, or will there be an adoption to the situation coming up in the US and in the rest of the world?
Dennis, I think.
Okay, yeah, let me take a first stab at this one. So it's definitely difficult to speak for a regulator, right? What I can tell you from my view of Circle in working with regulators, not myself, but I'm aware of that our policy team is doing this. So let me speak for myself here. I do believe that a regulation is, and Mika has been pretty close to MiFID, right? So I think a regulation is always something that will undergo an evolution. And we do expect this also for Mika, because there are certain topics that are not yet entirely spec'd out, right? Just one example is, for example, if you think about e-money tokens, would e-money then also require a compliance to, for example, a PSD2 regime that you have in Europe? So those are things that everybody is working very constructively on, and let's see in which direction a possible US regulation will go, right? I'm not quite sure on what they will do, but I am almost certain that the regulators are also talking among themselves. But yeah, this is outside my knowledge and my expertise here.
The next month will be fantastic. Something will move. Competition is always great. And although they talk to each other, there are national interests or regional interests. And we will be spectator probably of those interests crystallizing. Will be a nice time. We did good steps. Proud of Switzerland, although a bit shaky now because, as usual, sometimes we have good ideas, but they are then used by others to make multi-billion companies. But yeah, for sure, very happy about for the blockchain. I'm very happy about the evolution that is taking place. We have another big actor in the room, which will shape the future. That's going to be positive for everybody.
Amazing. Well, I think we're done with the questions for today. Thank you very much, Dennis and Christophe. I think your insights were really valuable, and I hope the audience has gained some information and some education from this session. It's clear that blockchain has the potential to do a lot in the financial industry, and it's exciting to see developments going in the right direction. And I'm just gonna take a little bit more of your time just to introduce Lightning Box. We have Cite Gestion, one of our members, and Circle, one of our integrators. Lightning Box is a corporate innovation sandbox designed to empower organizations in three sectors: finance, luxury, and the impact sector, to innovate and scale impactful blockchain solutions. We want to see some real use cases. We have on one side integrators such as Circle for payments, Taurus, Cardano, Multiverse X, Valdervis for legal and compliance services, and Hacken for cybersecurity. And on the other side, we have our members, such as Cite Gestion, where we offer workshops, innovation days, one-on-one consultations with our integrators, funding opportunities for a diverse range of projects that are done by our protocol partners, such as Cardano and Multiverse X. There are a lot of speaking engagements, events participation, and public relations support. And we're really proud to have Circle and Cite Gestion as part of this sandbox. And on that, it concludes today's session. I'd really like to thank again Christophe and Dennis. Really appreciate you joining us. And Dennis, special thanks to you for jumping in last minute. And yeah, I mean, if you'd like to learn more about Lightning Box, about Storm Partners, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. And thanks again to the CVA for co-hosting this session. I don't want to take too much more time on a Wednesday night, but yeah, really, thanks a lot. I hope you found it insightful, and I believe it will be posted. The session will be posted online tomorrow on the CVA account.